Imagine embarking on an unforgettable journey through the heart of Italy, where every turn is a new treasure and every moment is filled with beauty and culture. You start your adventure in Rome, the eternal city. Next, you venture into the rolling hills of Tuscany, where the air is perfumed with the scent of vineyards and olive grove. The journey continues to Venice, the floating city of canals and gondolas, after Five Earth and Milan. But your Italian adventure doesn't end on land. It's about to get even more extraordinary. A magical journey through Italy, topped off with a house music festival on Costa Cruise. Dance under the stars, relax in style, and discover exclusive performances on deck, all while sailing to some of the most beautiful destinations. There are 3 packages to choose from. Sailing dates are from September 24th through the 28th, 2025. Book yours now at festivaloncruise.com.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Heidi's House. It's your host, Queen Bee Heidi B. And in today's episode's featured guest is TP Corleone. He is a DJ, recording artist, music producer, and a radio personality. He's been doing house and also another genres like hip-hop. I'm very excited to have TP Corleone attending our podcast and to find out more about TP Corleone's house journey. So are you ready? Then let's go. So let's welcome TP Corleone is in the house.
Hey, Heidi B, thank you. Thank you for inviting me into your house. Thanks for having me, especially if you're going to talk about some house music, one of my favorite subject matters, one of my favorite things. I'm here for it, baby. I'm definitely here for it,
Absolutely. So Heidi's House is about house music, a global house music community, good vibes, peace, love, and unity, and house music.
That's right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very grateful and happy to have you joining into our podcast. And
cool.
And our episode will be episode 7, if I recall.
All right. Oh, that's my lucky number, believe it or not. That's my lucky number. So, wow, how did I know that? How did I even know that was going to happen? My birthday is on the 27th also, so January 27th. So, yeah, 7 is here. So, that's what's up.
Okay, 7. Yeah. Beautiful number. All right. We'll keep the questions about 7, 8, 9. Let's see if we come to the 7 questions or 9 questions or so on. But let's start. Maybe we modify.
Okay.
All right. So now for the podcast listeners and people watching this, the first question would be now that tell us a bit about who is TP Corleone.
Oh, that's a book. I need to write a book, but I'll try to sum the book up in maybe 4 or 5 sentences. I'm a music lover. I really love, of course I would be if I'm here. My favorite genres of music to me are intertwined with each other, which is underground, anything kind of underground that makes you want to dance, house music, funk, disco, and to me it's all blended into one gumbo of just good vibe music. I've played piano when I was a kid. I took piano lessons from about 1st to 5th grade. Then I had a band. I had a band after high school for about a couple of years. Then electronic music came out. Before house was a word, I called it mixed music here in Chicago before it really got defined. And once they defined the scene as house, the band I was in, I bought a synthesizer. My friend had a drum machine. We did all that. Started making tracks at home. And that's just a short version of my life. And here we are today.
Oh,
20 years later, 20, 30 years later, you know.
that
Mhm.
was a very short version.
Right.
Well, knowing what you have been doing, throughout all these years in a house music scene. But no worries, audience. We'll get more to the details while
Yeah.
our interview goes along.
Yes, we
Uh,
will.
so now you already mentioned a little bit about your start, but what would you say? What really got you into house music? Why house music?
Well, really, a couple of things. As a child, I was a big fan of like some of your funk bands, like Parliament Funkadelic, Cameo, Rick James, things like that. But especially the extended versions of their songs that were like maybe 8, 10, 15-minute versions, which got you really heavy on the dance floor. Then, as I grew older, but got in high school and so forth, I noticed other groups that weren't necessarily funk, but other groups were making songs that were strictly for the dance floor, extended versions and breaks and things like that. And I'm a sucker for a break in a song, and I'm a sucker for a song that can last forever, have many ups and valleys, high and lows, and things like that. So, house music is the kind of music that really, um, I guess, was actually embodied that. You know what I mean? And even before house was actually a word here in Chicago, it was more of a scene. And these people, these DJs and dancers and party goers, everybody just took those particular type of songs that could blend great at a party and at a set, and it turned into that particular scene. And I love it. You know, I just loved it. You know, I'm usually the first person on the dance floor at a party and the last person off the dance floor at a party. So house just
Oh,
embodies that and encapsulated all of that into something that I love. And one last thing too,
yeah.
um, during the time I got involved in house as a teen and young adult, especially a teen, hip hop was happening on the East Coast of America. And when I saw the movie Crush Groove, which was like a mini story about how Russell Simmons started Def Jam, Chicago had another version of Crush Groove going on here in Chicago through some of those labels like DJ International and Trax Records and so forth. So
Yeah.
while Run DMC and LL Cool J and Russell Simmons were establishing what they were establishing over there, the people in Chicago were establishing the house scene. And to me, house was our hip hop. You know, in
Yeah.
Chicago, as a kid over here in Chicago, house was our hip hop. So I was kind of grandfathered into the scene. I had no choice but to be involved in the house scene just by default, by living here. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I was just now thinking of this, that how amazing it is that you have been able to leave that era, as myself as well, where both house and hip hop were really like introduced and becoming like a phenomena, and then later spread worldwide. I mean, we are having the hip hop anniversary of 50 years, celebrating that. And we just celebrated so-called first recorded house track 40
Right. 40
anniversary.
years ago.
So, it's amazing that we have been part of that, or experiencing part of that
Yes.
in history, and you literally being part there at Chicago.
Yeah.
Yes, it's great.
Yeah, that is true. You know, that's true. And you never realize that you're in the middle of a happening until years later, years go by, you become an adult. In hindsight, you're like, wow, that really was a happening. I was involved in the movement in some, whether you were a club kid or whatever, you were involved in it. You know what I mean? And it's so cool to see it that way as we get older. And like you said, it spread worldwide. Hip hop and house are both worldwide movements. You know what I mean? So that's heavy. I love it. I love it.
I mean, they reach all the way to Finland even.
Right, right. Wow.
Imagine during the time where we really didn't have internet or mobiles or so on. I was 13 years old when I heard the first house track, Love Can't Turn Around, from
Wow.
classic radio show, and I was recording it to the tape cassette, with the tape recorder.
Yeah.
So, and that, if you think about it, it was really a big major influence, because of the world was different back then, and it's still
Yeah,
really
and the fact that you mentioned there was no internet or social media and things like that, and yet it was still able to spread worldwide is a big accomplishment. It's a
absolutely.
big accomplishment. I'm glad you mentioned that because in my mind, I wanted to ask you about that, but I'm not the interviewer. I'm the interviewee. But I really, really wanted to know that. So I guess you was reading my mind. Thanks for mentioning that.
We
That's
can,
so
we can
cool. That's so
we can change turns at some point if you
Yeah, one day we'll do it. We are definitely going to do that because I want to pick your brain too. But that's so cool. That's so cool.
beautiful thing. Well, so that got you to house music, really living there during that era and being inspired of what was going around and all that music that was, played around at that time. And I have to say also, I'm a really big freak for funk music myself,
Really? Okay.
Prince. I'm the ultimate Prince fan for instance.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. Yes.
um, uh, Parliament, and
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful things going on there, and
And they all made great dance music. Prince, Morris, they during their earlier years, they made great dance music. That can be intertwined into a house music set if you wanted to play it. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
and
Yes.
absolutely, and even some of the remixes are really like pure house style, and what
Yeah.
artists
Yeah.
have
You
been
know. You
releasing.
know.
So
You,
it works both
you
ways.
pay attention. That's nice. Mhm.
So now, since we talked about some artists already, so I don't know, I still want to explore this question a little bit more. Now, since we are talking about house, but it doesn't need to be a house. Just exploring what are the top artists for you that have inspired your music the most.
Wow. Okay. Well, I did mention one of them, like Parliament Funkadelic. I'm a big fan of the productions of Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards of Chic. I'm a great fan of them as well. Great. Listening to Chic kind of taught me how to structure a song when I write a song. And another group, Kraftwerk. When I think about Kraftwerk, when I think about them, they just blew my mind when I heard the Computer World album, the Computer World with numbers, and it's more fun to compute those songs. That just really redefined what music was to me. It just redefined the approach to music. That here is some really serious, cold street beats, banging hard, with no guitars, no violins, no singers, nothing. Just they just broke down music and restructured it, and it was still music, and it hit your heart. You could. It was like a drug. Transeurope Express, numbers. Those songs are like drugs and influence. Again, house, hip hop, electronica, all that. So Kraftwerk really, really are heavy in my influence on my influence. Yeah.
When you mention all of those artists and
Mhm.
influences, uh, the thing is that their music is timeless still.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
well, I'm regularly putting chic tracks on or some stuff with Nile Rodgers and jamming to that and having my
You
good vibes
know.
on, and it never goes old. It's always
Yes.
works its magic. So beautiful, beautiful selection, and I totally
Hmm.
vibe with those that you mentioned, and then let's continue to the next one, which is a little bit maybe tricky
Uh-oh.
for a recording artist because I'm thinking now the house music tracks themselves. What would you
Yeah.
say would be your, let's say, top 3 or 4? Some people need to choose maybe 5
Wow. Wow.
of all your
Okay,
house music tracks.
okay. But let me put a disclaimer. Some of these groups I may or might not know is strictly because these songs give me the Holy Ghost when I'm on the dance floor. Simple as that. No, it's not about the production, not about the the musician shop, strictly about what the songs do to me.
Yeah.
There's a song called Work the Box by Santos. I'm not sure if Santos is a person or a group. It came out on Trax Records like maybe in '87 or something like that. That song just makes me go crazy. And sometimes I still today in my DJ sets find a way to play it for no reason. Another song, Los Niños del Parque by a group from, I think they were from Holland, I'm not quite sure, called Liaisons Les Dangereuses. that song, I think when the song was popular, it was at least 2, 3 years old when it was popular, at least in my surroundings, in my neighborhood. But it Los Niños, that's another one that gives me the Holy Ghost. Los Niños del Parque, when I say work the box, and well, okay, and a song "Can You Feel It" by Fingers Incorporated. Just a smooth instrumental. Larry Heard produced it, from Chicago. It's just that's another song that kind of changed the game. Before he came out with that song, everything was hard, jack, 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 jack. But that song, just with the chords, the melodies, and it just moved everything going out. So those are three of my favorite.
All right. So people check those out. And I love
Yes,
the fact that you chose exactly something that is maybe not so often heard, but it's not about the popularity. It's about exactly those vibes that you get.
Yeah. As long as they get the job done, to me, that's all that counts. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing those.
No problem.
Then I apologize already for this question, because this is for sometimes it's kind of for artists very hard to answer to this, but
I'm scared
I'm
now.
gonna ask it still,
Yeah.
out
Hit
of
me
all of
with
your
it.
tracks, uh, is there some particular track that stands out for you out of your own productions, and
Really?
maybe why? I know it's a tricky question. Or maybe
Yeah,
something.
you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? Yep. Now I like all of my songs, but I like to think I get better as I get older, as time goes on. So I will name maybe one or two or maybe three. So my most recent release on Wake Up Music Group label called Love Life Dance Music. I really, really, really am happy and proud of that one because I was able to articulate, the things that make me, feel good. I love life and I love dance music. You know what I mean? And I love actually the production on it as well. I tried to blend many different my experiences of eras of house that I have existed in. I tried to blend some of the old school with a lot of the new school. And I even rapped on it. Because I'm not a great singer, but I can rap with both hands tied behind my back. So there's two small verses, but I love it. I love what it's about, you know what I'm saying? And I love the support I got from the label as well, Wake Up Music Group. And there's another one that I recorded on another label, Brooklyn Beatdown Music, called Where the Freaks Be At, the producer of that one, DJ Renee, she took a sample of an old. I did a hip hop album a few years ago, and she took a sample from an old song that I did, "Where the Freaks Be At," and we redone it into a house version. But I didn't know she was going to put like a James Brown type feel on it. You know what I mean? And she must know I'm a funky person. She know I love the funk, I guess. So that caught me by surprise when she put that James Brown feel on it. So yeah, those are two of my favorites.
Wonderful.
And shout out to Pepper Gomez from Wake Up Music. She's really doing some great things with the label. I hate this. I'm trying to just pull a plug in. I apologize, but I have a new song that's coming out sometime this spring. I'm expecting called Down to the Ground. Work your body down to the ground. The label loves it. I love it, and it's going to blow up the streets real hot this summer, blow up the world. So get ready for it. Down to the ground.
Get
And my
ready.
daughter Joy sings the hook on it too. My daughter Joy sings the hook on it as well. Anyway, yes.
Yeah,
I know that was a long answer. I apologize. I can move my mouth
it's a
sometimes.
beautiful answer. Beautiful answer. And great, great explanation. And also, you know, you mentioned DJ Renee. Shout out to DJ Renee. She's awesome. I love her to bits. She's awesome, awesome. So shout out to her here as well. Okay. Then the next question would be, share us some of the highlights of your career. And I know that might be tricky again, but some kind of things that stand out maybe the most.
Okay, well, I believe it or not, my highlights. So my very first song that I recorded actually which wasn't a song I written, but I was part of a group called the Elects. I named the group right out of high school, during the early years of house music, and this is like my first highlight. And it was me, a guy that I had worked with at my job at a department store, and a guy I grew up with who we had. So I put the band together. The guy I grew up with, his name's Steve. He had his 4-track. I had my synthesizer, and my drummer. So he had a synthesizer. We all took our particular songs and put them together as a group. His song, we shopped our songs. My friend Steve, his song got picked by a label. Mute Records put it out. It was under Version, Mute, Warner, all that, on a compilation album. The compilation album didn't do great here because it was released as an import, but it did great in Europe, and we were just kids, and we had a song called "I'm House," which I saw was #1 on New Music Express's house chart, you know what I mean? And this was like 87, 88, I think, something like that, you know what I mean? But we didn't make any money. We were kids, you know the story. A lot of people, didn't make any money, but that was my first highlight. I'm still kind of happy about that because I didn't expect it to do that well. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Beautiful and
Mhm.
memorable moments, and
Yes.
something really like a special, especially
Yeah.
when you are in a so to say beginning of your journey.
Exactly.
And
And
so
that one little moment, the fact that I did see a #1 on somebody's chart just planted the seed to make me keep going, even though I may run into some obstacles or things like that. I will still keep going because that one little moment planted the seed to just not give up and don't stop. So perseverance, everything.
that's the thing. We need those moments. I
Yeah.
totally agree. Since we are, working in creating and artists and doing our vision and so on. So sometimes it is kind of uh, a bit lonely journey, so to say, and
Yeah.
a lot of risks, personal risks. Sometimes you need to invest on your own pocket to do things like
Yes, you
this,
do.
learn new things,
Hmm.
everything, and you never know what's gonna come out of it. So when you see these seeds and then some kind of blooming of those seeds, that's always like, okay, I must be doing something.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it that way. I see it the same exact way. Yes, I do. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think all of
Yeah, yeah,
all
yeah.
of us we can relate to that who are in this
Hmm.
music business. Now I have to say that since you mentioned that for the audience as well, that TP Corleone is not only about house. Can you tell about that hip hop part that you mentioned?
Uh-oh, uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I do love, especially in the 90s, I got really, really deep and heavy into it. I started doing my own productions and rapping and things like that. I was a big fan of some of the gangster rap from the West Coast and also some of the boom bap rap on the East Coast. So I kind of and I was able to put some of my love of the funk. I never was a big sampler. I was still writing my own tracks and producing my own funk type tracks, but since gangster rap kind of did a resurgence of the interest in funk music, I started doing kind of gangster, but I wasn't big on the messages per se. I was more big on just the music style and the production style and the grooves. And I can write a rhyme, I can write a rap song in 5 minutes, a good rap song too. So it was fun, it was easy. It was love. I did a lot of shows, with some artists and things like that, but I started kind of gravitating, drifting away from it a little bit because of some of the things that were going on in the scene. And as I was getting older and start having kids, I'm like, I mean, to each his own. I'm not being judgmental at all, but I'm like, I don't want to really have kids and still, saying these kind of, narratives and messages in some of these songs that I'm not really a fan of. You know what I mean? So I went back to house again, and it's been a good 20 years. I've been back in house again. I love it. I love
Yeah.
it.
And,
Yeah.
and, and the
Mhm.
thing is that it really makes sense that you are able, due to your being so versatile artist, that you are
Yes.
able
Thank
to
you.
add the rap part now to the
Yeah.
house track and use that,
Yes.
and
Yes.
mix between these
And believe it or
genres.
not, I actually was doing that. Even though I was rapping, I found an excuse, some kind of way to put a couple of house tracks on my EPs and hip hop albums when I was doing that. I just did it because I'm still from Chicago and I got to do it, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yes,
gotta do
yes.
it.
And I love the fact that, when the artist doesn't limit themselves to one particular genre.
Thank you.
I think
Yes.
I try to apply that in my personal life as well, that to be open to different musical influences, because you kind of, first of all, you don't limit your expression, and then you keep on learning and expanding all the
Yes.
time. That's the beauty. It
Yeah.
keeps it fresh.
Yes. You
Oh.
know, that's so true. That's so true. Yeah. Actually, to piggyback on that comment, I found out that some of my most favorite artists, like for instance, I'll say Nile Rodgers of Chic, for example, he's known to be this great disco dance music guitarist and producer and everything and pop whatever. But in his autobiography, he mentions that, or if he interviewed him, whatever, he would mention that his dream was to be the next Jimi Hendrix. So before he
Oh,
got into disco and all that, he got these strong rock, blues, rock, heavy, hard, acid rock influences. You know what I mean? But his opportunities came through disco and funky dance music. You know, so you never know what a person has in their repertoire, what a person is capable of. You know what I mean? And he
absolutely.
didn't limit himself, or he never would have became what he is today. You know?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm glad that he
Yeah.
didn't, and I'm happy
Me
that he
too. I'm
did.
glad he did too. Yeah. Yeah. He said he went to England to try to make it as a next Jimi Hendrix, and he fell on his face. They didn't accept him at us. We came back to to the United States and got into disco and everything, you know. But anyway, yeah. Yeah.
So, I have two more questions.
Okay.
So now this is again a little bit like maybe a bit tricky one, but let's formulate it like this. What do you think that is your personal contribution or message to the house music community?
Okay. Well, I don't know if I want to say a contribution, or well, I would like to say that I still like to keep the vibration, the narrative of party music, music that's meant for partying, for fun, and just enjoyment, you know. And I know I'm not the only one, you know, but I just like to contribute to that because to keep the vibration on that side, you know, away from a lot of the even the complaining, the letting politics get you down, letting bills get you down. You know, I don't really like to even mention those kind of things in my music. You know, even in the DJ sets that I do, I like to keep it on a happy, you know, and I'm not saying don't face your problems or anything, but you need an escape and you need a way to be stress free. And I would just want you to dance, and I try like to continue that type of energy, that type of narrative in my music, and that's I feel that is my contribution. You know, I like to
That's a
say that.
beautiful contribution, and
Yeah.
those beautiful vibes and energies. That's what we need. That's what
Yes.
we
Thank
need.
you.
Our
Yeah.
daily life, to uplift, and
Yeah, I mean, we all have our problems and challenges we're dealing with, but sometimes, because if you let them get you down, it can kill you. It's bad for your health. So you need some stress-free time too. So when you want to get stress-free, come over to TP, and that's what I give
yeah,
you.
good times.
Yeah, that little quick rhyme, quick. That's a little quick one off the dome. Anyway,
Right.
anyway.
Okay. Well, now would be the last, but definitely not the least question. You kind of mentioned a little bit about that, but share us again a little bit about your current projects. What is happening now?
Oh yeah. Okay. So I'm also a DJ with two radio shows. One is Chicago Sizzle Radio. You can catch me in Chicago time Saturday and Sunday from 9 to 10 in the morning, and I'm also back on from 1 to 2 in the afternoon. I'm also on LWR London World Radio, um, um, broadcasting live from the UK. My show is called TP's House. I broadcast 4 to 6 Chicago time, 10 to midnight their time. I've been on there for about 6 years. Great station, great people I've been through. And my newest project is called Down to the Ground. Down to the Ground on Wake Up Music Group, a great label doing some great things. She a great roster on the label, and check me out. And my most recent, before this comes out, it may be out by the time this airs, but my last single last year was called Love Life Dance Music, and there's also a nice remix I've done for a group called an artist Fluid Dynamic featuring Pepper Gomez, which is called Super Freak Me, a hot slam and jam. Actually, the whole remix project. There's a lot of mixes on that actual EP, not just from me, from Eric Cupper, from who else? From XT. So I always mess his name up. My man from South Africa, he kills it. You know what I mean? Fluid Dynamic has her own remix of it. My man, that dude Dom. It's a wall of sound project. Super Freak Me. Don't sleep on that. It's still hot. Like 10 mixes. Peep that as well. So those are the most recent releases that I've been involved in, and got more to come. More to come.
Oh my goodness. So check those radio stations and he shows out, people. Check his music and stay tuned for the new coming track in April. So again, if somebody is now really eager to find you from social media, where can they find you, TP?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. Website is in the works, so Instagram and YouTube. I also have a podcast as well, which has been on hold for a moment, but I'm going to bring it back up later on in the year. TP Corleone's Funk Zone. So I have that podcast. A lot of great people I've interviewed on there as well. So yeah, you can find me there: YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and those stations I'm on as well. Yeah.
Wonderful. So check them out. And again, it was a great pleasure and honor to have you joining at Heidi's House Music Podcast. And I'm so excited, to add the music, the following mini mix, which will be, after this interview part now.
Well, I'm honored to be on your show, to be on show number 7. You're doing great things. Congratulations on this show, and much blessings to you too, Heidi. Thank you so much, Heidi.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm expecting and staying tuned for those new releases as well. And I'm gonna definitely tune to those radio programs. So
all right.
Check them out.
Okay, then. That's what I'm talking about. Check them out, baby. House music all night long.
House music all night long and all night long. Good times.
All right. Good times, baby. Good times.
All right. So thank you again. And
no problem. Thanks so much for having me.
From Helsinki. And
okay.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, Heidi.